Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this episode of The Federal. My name is Naved Anjum, and I'm joined today by a very, very special guest, a maverick for whom words like mavens and connoisseur and whatnot has been coined, and who has lived life on his own terms, not really, playing by any rule book of any sort. Welcome to this show, Mr. Prahlad Kakar. It's wonderful to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So Mr. Kakar has just come out with his memoir, Adman Madman, Unapologetically Prahlad, which he has written with Rupangi Sharma, which has been published by HarperCollins. And it's a thrilling read. It's a kind of a little over 500 pages, but it's a very breezy read, which in which I think Mr. Kakar has spilled beans on a lot of things. But just to begin, Mr. Kakar, by way of introduction, I think it's a very richly lived life. It's a life, as I said, lived on your own terms, with little compromises and no regrets whatsoever. And I'll begin with this epic shot that is on the back of the cover, and along with this.
Well, you know,
Along with this introduction, a brief sort of bio of sorts by yeah, please.
Mohammed is an old colleague and a great friend, and he knows almost every detail in that book, in that biodata, is absolutely bang on. Because part of it is factually true, part of it is what he's read my mind. Like the part with the sperm donor and everything, he's sort of anticipated, yeah, aisa hi karna wala hai. So he had been asked to do an ad for Times of India, which he had asked me to post for. And I had just had my bypass. So it was exactly 1 month after the bypass that I actually went to Marway Beach and got this photograph done. The original photograph, which they usually had, was what the brief was, that I'm in a tuxedo with a cigar in my mouth, with my hair flying, and two girls in bikinis on either side. And I looked at this photograph and I said, great photograph, but that's a myth. So they said, so what is the truth? So I said, okay, let me tell you. So I went back to the changing room and I took off all my clothes, just wore my hat, covered my essentials, and walked out with a fish in my hand because I had just been introduced to the oceans at that time and I was fascinated by them. So I had a fish in my hand, my hat covering the essentials, and me standing there with a cigar in my mouth. And I said, this is the truth. So Mr. Parekh, who was the photographer, was thrilled a bit. He didn't bat an eyelid. He said, fine. And when he was about to take the photograph, the dog came and sat very in perfect position between my legs in the distance. So if you notice, everybody notices the dog. He said, how do you get the dog to come and sit there in such perfect position? So we took the photograph and we sent both the photographs to Mohammed. And Mohammed said, yeah, I don't know what to do now. Both look good. So he sent it to the Times of India, who immediately returned the nude to me and said, we are a family newspaper. Don't be stupid. We can't print this in our ad. So I kept that photograph with me, thinking that I was going to use it. So I was using it as a DP for as long as you can remember. And when this book happened and we were discussing the cover, I wanted this photograph in the front cover, not in the back cover.
Okay.
And there was a huge tussle and legal turned around and intervened in the middle and said, listen, you want your book banned? Then you have it in the front cover. So I said, maybe it's a good idea to have it banned. It'll sell even faster if it is legal. So they said, no, we'll put it on the back cover. So we agreed to disagree and we put it on the back cover. And so there's a front cover and a back cover. So the front cover is relatively reasonable and legitimate. And the back cover is exactly how I wanted it to be.
Yeah, so somehow there's a balance between the two. Okay, yes. But the back cover is also accompanied by a bio of sorts, a life sketch actually, which touches upon everything that you have done. I would just like to briefly, read this. It says, Prahlad Kakar, born 1948, chucked out of play school at 5, lost his virginity in class 11, got thrown out.
That's a moot question. That Mohammed doesn't know. He's just conjecturing.
Oh, okay. And then aspiring army general, horse breeder, blue filmmaker, accidental filmmaker, slave to Shyam Benegal. Some of these aspects, of course, we've spoken about, written about in the book as well. Resigned before being fired, started his own production house, then a dhaba, a restaurant, a beach resort, a scuba diving school, a cigar brand, an NGO, wine tester, tea connoisseur, hat collector, self-proclaimed philosopher, aspiring sperm donor. Prahlad Kakar loves cooking, women, horses, listening to his own voice, not necessarily in that order. And then there's a there is a caveat which says he has a beautiful wife Mitali and three sons and adores. So he says. And then in the end it reads, as quoted by Muhammad Khan, one of the doyens of Indian advertising, who seems to know Prahlad best. So,
Yes. Well, there you are.
I think this pretty much sums up, and of course all these details are there in the book. One should read and know. But I would like to begin, Mr. Kakar, where you begin the book, where it all began, basically in Dehradun, where you describe your you as a person and your attitude towards life. And we'll come back to other aspects, that Mr. Khan has summed up in this brief bio of yours. But if you could talk about Dehradun a bit and how that sort of
No,
shaped your
after I was thrown out of play school for
Mhm.
behavior unbecoming of a gentleman, a
Yeah.
future gentleman, and scandalizing the principal and her daughter, uh, we
Hmm.
moved to Dehradun. My grandfather retired from the army and moved to Dehradun and bought an old house in Chittor Road. And I was packed off with him because I was this kalank in the family, you know, this blot on the horizon, as you might call it. So the further away I was from everybody else, the better it was for everybody else and for me. So I packed off Dehradun and put into a school there. And Dehradun was pivotal
Hmm.
in shaping my life to a very large extent. Especially the
Hmm.
outdoors, the forests, the rivers, the cycling all over the place, the
Boxing.
greenery,
Hmm.
boxing, hating boxing and still having to do it, you know, and being good at it because I hated being hit or pulverized. And my greatest fear was being beaten to pulp in front of an audience, you know, and not being able to do anything about it. And it was perfectly legal, you know. So, uh, so boxing, athletics, and
Yes.
outdoors. So I
Hmm.
realized that, you know, I was very selective in my excellence in academics. There were certain subjects I was very good at, and maths, algebra, geometry, statistics, and stuff like that I was terrible at. And
Hmm.
I didn't realize that I had dyslexia. And in those days, it wasn't very commonly known that
Yes.
one out of every 10 children are dyslexic. So
Yes.
they thought I was just a lazy duffer. So they would really lean on me, you know, my class to do better in class. And they couldn't
Hmm.
understand why I excelled in certain subjects and was hopeless in others. And they said if you can score, you know, such good marks in English literature and English prose and everything else and poetry, why can't you do the same for physics and chemistry? It's just a matter of effort. And
Hmm.
actually they were right, but because I was dyslexic and it challenged me, I
Hmm.
just didn't want to do it. It didn't. That settled something in my mind that if I don't like something, I don't want to do it. It
Right.
sounds too much like work or hard work.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that actually set my whole life in perspective because even
Hmm.
later on in life, if anything felt like routine work, I
Hmm.
just ran away from it. So
Yeah.
whatever I did was passionate and it was interesting and it was multiple. I chose not just my film career, which
Hmm.
kept me going all this time, but
Right.
I also ran a scuba diving school. We ran an NGO. We
Hmm.
started restaurants because we used to have a kitchen in the office and we used
Hmm.
to cook. And the
Yeah.
best food in Bombay was actually in my office and it was free.
Yes.
So, especially Saturdays, we used to have open house.
Hmm.
Saturday is usually a holiday. It was half
Right.
day for us. So
Yeah.
we used to cook on Saturdays and invite everybody to come and eat in the office. It was a small office, a 400 square feet office, of which one third was the kitchen. And it didn't look like an office. It looked like a cafeteria actually. So,
Fun, yeah.
so the kitchen was the heart of the office. And
Mm.
the reason why that was so, it was inadvertent. I didn't realize it until much later, that
Mm.
the entire creative process started from the kitchen.
Right.
Because the kitchen was very democratic. There were no bosses and there were no juniors and there were no seniors. It was
Mm.
everybody was equal, and the person who was in charge was the person who had cooked that day. So
Okay.
whoever had cooked that day was actually
Full record.
had the maximum amount of voice.
Okay.
So if we were discussing ideas, if we were discussing projects, if we were discussing anything over lunch, it was highly democratic. There was no pecking order. There was no such thing as hey, tu chukar. You are too junior to say this, or you're
Right.
not. This is not your pay grade. You just keep
Yeah.
quiet and look good. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no such hierarchy which offices usually have,
Right.
and that was because of the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And the kitchen made it very democratic, and the
Right.
kitchen made it also very, very involving, because everybody was involved in the process of making films, and they would contribute in whatever way they could, and there was ownership. And I realized that much later when we were trying to emulate my office into a management school, into an entrepreneurial school, as to what the
Right.
curriculum should be. And we said the curriculum should be what happened in the office,
Yeah.
because that is what made everybody entrepreneurs. It,
Mm-hmm.
it, it, it made them not fear risk. It made them not fear failure, which
Right.
is what the trait of a good entrepreneur is, that you're not afraid of risk and you're not afraid of failure.
Absolutely.
So these
And
are
this
the
is.
two things that came out of the office and came out of the kitchen, actually.
Mm-hmm. And not fearing the failure is something that you learn very early on, that you write in the book, in those formative years in Dehradun, and subsequently in Pune at Ferguson College, where
Correct.
you studied economics. And I was just curious to know, how did this? I mean, two questions about your childhood. One about your mother. You write that as a single parent, because you have very little memory of your father, and as a
Yeah.
single parent, what it sort of, so your relationship with your mother is one part of it, and the other part of what sort of brought you to advertising, even though you have written about it in the book, just
Yeah.
for the viewers, that
I actually, by totally by chance, I got a job in a bank, in a multinational bank. I mean, I
Right.
didn't get the job, but I was told that there was one interview left, and if I got a decent second class in my BA in college, that they would consider me very seriously to come into the bank. So
Yeah.
while I was waiting for my results to come, I sort of decided, let me have a look at the working environment. देखे क्या कहाँ है क्या है. So I realized their head office was in a fort near the fountain,
Right.
and all
Right.
the trainees were sitting in the basement
Mm-hmm.
with no windows, underground, and
Right.
brightly lit, kadak air conditioning. So everybody is wearing sweaters and coats and things like very formally dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And in rows, in those days there were no computers, so they were sitting on these calculating machines
Right.
and balancing the ledgers of the day. Every
Mm-hmm.
evening they would have to do the profit and loss of every day's transaction. So everybody is given a fat ledger to actually fill in by hand. कितना आया, कितना गया, कितना profit हुआ, कितना loss हुआ, वगैरह वगैरह.
Right.
So I looked at them sitting there like this. It reminded me of an Orwellian world. I just
Right.
read, Brave New World,
Mm-hmm.
and I closed my eyes and I imagined my whole career to be sitting in that dungeon with no light, with no sunlight, coming in before the sun rose, leaving after the sun set, and being this unnatural kind of person. And I realized that I was so suffocated. I would be so suffocated in that environment that I ran away. I never went back when I finally into it. And my parents and my relatives and all were like horrified. इतनी अच्छी नौकरी मिली है, हमने सब लड्डू भी बांट दिए और तू भाग गया, you know. And तू वापस भी नहीं गया. I said, trust me, I would have died there. It just wasn't my scene. And
Yeah.
numbers, though I don't know, I can't figure out after 3 zeros what it means. So 3 zeros is 1,000, 4 zeros is 1 lakh or whatever it is, and I can't make out the difference between thousand and lakhs. So when I went to Vietnam, when I used to change a dollar into a dong, I had to get a suitcase full of dong. I couldn't even count how much I got back for each dollar. You know? So I used to just carry it around in big bundles and give it to a taxi man and say, ye le, 1 million dong to cut jo kuch katta hai, and leave it to him. Because I couldn't figure out how much money it was, and how many zeros there were. So I actually didn't join the bank. And I was then walking around Delhi. I was at that time living in Delhi.
Okay.
I was walking around near, what do you call, Humayun's tomb, in that area, Dwarflix area.
Yeah.
And I saw these people sitting on a lawn on a winter morning, sharing lunch.
Okay.
They were all very brightly dressed. They weren't formal. They were enjoying themselves. They looked happy. So I said, yaar, ye to acha office lag raha hai. So I walked up to them and asked them, I said, kya karte ho tum log? So they said, we are in advertising. I said, what is that? They said, what do you call it? We design campaigns for products. I said, you don't paint latrines in the middle of the night with movie posters. They said, no. What do you mean? That's not advertising. that's publicity. I said, oh, there's a difference between publicity and advertising. Yes, advertising is a science. It is campaigning, it is strategy, it is, tactics, it's positioning, it's how you take your product and make it come alive to the consumer. That sounds interesting. मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. So मैं कोशिश तो करूँगा. So they said, go to the reception. She'll put you in touch with whoever you want. So I went to the reception. And in Delhi in 1971, was very conservative. And it was very unsafe. It still is for girls. After dark, it's like the jungle. In 71, you can imagine how unsafe it was. Yeah. And there was this girl who was 5'8", with a stunning figure, wearing a mini skirt. मैंने कहा, यार, this woman has solid guts to wear a mini skirt in Delhi in 1971. I said, I don't believe this. I said, she's terrific. So I talked to her. Her name was Farida Pandey.
Okay.
And she was very influential. She got me an interview with the boss. Okay. And the result of the interview was in the book. How I got the job at the skin of my teeth. Because he wanted me to say something else, and I said the exact opposite. And he must have realized that ye sahi aadmi. And told us that take him around the office and show me a seat. And my seat was outside the men's toilet, which is the seat that you give for duffers. जो सबसे useless person होता है ना दफ्तर में, उसको men's toilet के सामने सीट मिलती है, क्योंकि कभी-कभी बदबू उसकी तरफ भी आती है. So that's how my career in advertising started. Right. I enjoyed it so much to date. I have never looked back. I never wanted anything else. Of course, I wanted other things, but I didn't want to give up something to get something else. I decided that I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do my advertising. I'm going to do my scuba diving. I'm going to do my wine tasting and making. I'm going to do my cigars. I'm going to run my restaurants. I'm going to have a kitchen in the office, which is the best place in Bombay, where we serve really good food. And it sort of evolved through interest, through hobbies. So I can safely say that I've never worked a single day in my life.
and yet there's so much that you have achieved. So that I think really should be.
But that is what I tell the kids today. They don't work for money.
Yes.
Work for passion. Yes. Because if you work for passion, you will not count the hours. You will not look at the clock and say 5 baje chalo ghar jana hai.
Exactly.
You will not look at the clock at all. तुम्हें मालूम ही नहीं होगा घर जाना है, रात हो गई, दिन हो गया, कौन सा दिन है, कौन सा डे है, वो भी नहीं मालूम होगा आपको.
Right.
और लगे होगे. Now there is no limit to partying or having fun. There is a limit to work, because work is a drudgery. Everybody thinks that करना पड़ रहा है, भूखे पेट के लिए करना पड़ता है. Papi pet as they call it. But why? You have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow the dictates of your papi pet. You can follow the dictates of your heart.
Yeah.
And do something which you love, because nobody can compete with you. Because you're doing it out of passion. The amount of time that you spend doing it is uncountable. It's invaluable. Because don't look at time. Everybody else is looking at the time, which is why they're limited in their success. I was not limited in my success because I never looked at it as work. I looked at it as fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And also you wanted to work for yourself. I know that was very clear in your head. And
no, but right from the beginning with Shyam Benegal, when I was a slave, he gave me lots of responsibility.
Right.
Once he started understanding that he could trust me and my work ethos in terms of deliveries, in terms of schedules, in terms of budgets, that he could more or less trust me. Of course, you have to keep an eagle eye on it. Or agar there was kuch bhi altu it will come down very hard on us. So he trusted me with a lot of jobs which I could do on my own. And that gave me ownership.
Right.
So when I started working for myself, it wasn't very different. Because even in the office, I was working for myself because I was in charge of the film department because Shyam went on to make feature films after that.
Right. So, and you also write about, the people you met there and, including people like, Kamath Mama, his, cinematographer, and then Shama Habibullah, and how they sort of also helped you a lot, while in that phase of your life.
No, because they shaped my career. They mentored me as far as film was concerned. Especially Kamath Mama and Shama. They were hands-on. They were different kinds of mentors. Shyam was a different kind of mentor. Shyam would let you loose and then watch you. Kya kar raha hai? He never told you what to do. He just said, ye karna hai, karo. And then he'd watch you to see what you do. And left a lot of the decision-making to you. Whereas Shama and Kamath Mama actually supervised everything that you did. So they were real, they were tangible mentors, as you might call it. नहीं ये गलत कर रहा है ये सही कर रहा है गलत करने के पहले तो सोच that kind of thing. Shyam used to say, make your mistakes. If you don't make your mistakes, you'll never learn.
Right. And then there was this
mistake करने के बाद भुगतो. If you don't get the punishment for the mistake, you will always repeat the mistake. If the mistake is easy for you, and if you don't have to pay for it, then you will make the mistake again. So you must learn from your mistakes, not make the same mistake again.
Right. What are the prices that you yourself have paid for making mistakes in your life?
Oh, lots of times. There's a captain that I was given to somebody as a gift. I was gift wrapped and sent to a gentleman with tastes that ran out of the ordinary.
Right.
And I was saved because he looked at me and said, "Shyam, he's too hairy for me."
And then there was this and there was the magnificent Smita Patil, who also sort of gave the name for Genesis. And if you could talk about that a bit. And
she was very much, after she became a part of the Shyam Benegal family, extended family, of which Shabana and Nasir and all these people were. So everybody who worked with him became a part of the family. Because Shyam's style of working was very different. He didn't call people only on the time that he required them. Because a lot of his films were on location. Everybody traveled together. Everybody lived together. Everybody lived every day on the set. In costume.
Oh, okay.
So especially Manthan and Ankur, everybody was dressed in that costume so that they become used to the character.
Right.
So he's a very good director with character. He gets amazing performances out of it. And there's a method in his madness.
Right.
That when he makes everybody attend the shoot, they see what is atta pata. It's not, they only don't learn their parts. They also know everybody else's parts. They also know everybody else's mahal.
Right.
And what is the relevance of the story and what part do they play in the story. And so they add a dimension to their own characters, which is never written in, because you can't write it in.
Yeah.
The actor has to actually feel it. And he allowed his actors to feel the character.
Right.
And to believe in the character. So if they were in uniform, if they were in character, even if they were not shooting, and on the set, and hanging out and helping with the food and helping with serving and the unit when we broke a lunch, it created a family sense that the whole unit, in the technical unit, which is the shooting unit, and the actor. It wasn't like the Hindi movie industry, where the actors are gods and everybody else is lallu, and everybody else gets third grade treatment and the actors get first grade treatment.
Yeah.
In Shyam's unit, everybody is treating the same. It doesn't matter who you are. And you are part of a very cohesive family. And if you didn't like it, then you are quite free to leave.
Yeah. But you never left.
Nobody left because they realized that they were going to learn so much from the experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, also, you write that there's a great deal about the art of storytelling that you learned from him,
Correct.
and that also really came handy when in your own career as an ad man and as an ad
because see, today they've come the full circle. Shyam and people like him have been telling clients and industrialists and entrepreneurs that, boss, if your brand does not have a story,
right,
it is dead. People will not engage with it. It has to have a story. It has to have an engaging story. The brand, where all the values of the brand are encapsulated in the story. अपने नाम लिखा, brand का नाम लिखा है. Take for instance, you equate a brand with a child.
Right.
So, child is born in a family. The first thing you do is give it a name. आप नाम कैसे देते हो? किस हिसाब से नपातुल्ला नाम देते हो? Because in the name is embedded a story. A story of valor, courage, compassion, kindness, righteousness, efficiency, whatever it might be. Whatever your character name that you've taken from the epics and given him the name. So if you give him the name of Abhimanyu, first you give your son name Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu kaun tha? His growing up time, when you put him to sleep and you tell him stories, you tell him stories about Abhimanyu, what his name is. And when he grows up with the values of Abhimanyu, hopefully.
Right.
Okay, so then he delivers those values and he's considered a valuable asset to any society.
Right.
If he turns out to Nikamma, and if he doesn't have a story, and he's just selfish, and he's cruel, and he's only for himself and nobody else, then he's a failure as far as society is concerned. So then your brand fails because you haven't given it a story which has some value. Because the story creates the value of your brand. The value is what you decide to give it, how it behaves, what is its character. Now, a brand, you look at it, it's a glass, it's a jug. It's not a jug. There's a person inside that jug. उसपे नाम दिया आपने. वो qualities of the name actually imbibe the jug. So you then start building a campaign around that name.
Right.
At what it stands for. So you take a rubbish soft drink like Coke, Pepsi, or what do you call Thumbs Up. What is it? It's carbonated sugar water with some flavoring in it, which makes it dark.
Yeah.
Okay. And anyway, traditionally in the East, dark was meant to be evil. Light was meant to be good. So white, reds, pinks, those are good colors. Blacks are bad colors because they're meant for evil. Okay.
Yeah.
But in the West, black is an accepted color. So all these drinks have black color, and now we have learned to accept them. In the beginning, there must have been a lot of resistance. Maybe a color drink superior. So they imbibe qualities in their brands. Take Pepsi. What is their positioning? Pepsi's positioning is between 16 and 25. Young, students, first-time workers, jobs, hopes, alive, lots of excitement, and anti what do you call anti the status quo. They always want to break the rules.
Yeah.
They don't want to follow rules. They rebel. So Pepsi built its entire characteristic about rebellion. Nothing official about it.
Yeah.
Okay, it built it around the philosophy. Nothing official about it. And Coke built its philosophy around solid values, family values. हम सब हमारा कुटुंब सब एक साथ कोक पिएंगे.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there it is a solid family value which was viable.
Right.
And Thumbs Up, which was an Indian-made drink, which Coke tried to kill to get all the consumers of Thumbs Up to shift to Coke, realized that they weren't shifting to Coke, they were shifting to Pepsi. So they got very alarmed and they revived Thumbs Up because the tea ran is also. Now Thumbs Up might not work in metros, but in B, C, and D towns, it's king. And it has a very macho image. Taste the thunder. So it's all about chhati pe baal, haath mein banduk. So
Yeah.
it's a very macho brand. So the whole advertising is macho. Okay. And action.
Yes. Yes.
Now you have three distinct categories of values. Now you choose one of those categories. Do you choose the flavor and the taste?
Right.
And the color of the drink? Or do you choose the value of the drink?
Right. Right.
Because in a blind test, we got loyalists. हम कोक ही पियेंगे, सपना भी हमारा कोक आता है, सपना भी हमारा पेप्सी का आता है, कभी दूसरी ड्रिंक भी पियेंगे. We gave them a blind test of 3 drinks. A was Coke, B was Pepsi, C was Sabra. 95% got it wrong. In a blind test, they couldn't make out the difference between the 3 tastes. So what were they so loyal about? Why were they fighting so much? Why were they cola wars?
Yeah.
On the value that you build around your brand, no?
Yeah.
That was your identity. The identity was मैं पेप्सी हूँ, मैं यंग हूँ, मैं रेवोल्यूशनरी हूँ, मैं सबकी बात नहीं सुनूंगा, मैं अपने बाल लंबे रखूंगा, मैं अपनी पैंट हिप पे पहनूंगा, you know. So like to say ABCD band. It's a byword, you know. The Maharashtrian byword in Takta. She looks at the sun and says, "Agabai chaddi distat." Agabai chaddi distat. Oh my God, I can see your chaddis. You know, where are you wearing your pants?
Okay. That brings me to a question related to you famously said that that there's nothing called ethics in advertising, and I was just curious to know if you what are your thoughts on sort of drawing a line somewhere between, say, a creativity and ethics, and there's no
advertising as a profession.
Yes.
It's the business of telling half truths.
Right.
Okay, you tell the truth about yourself, but you don't leave out the bad parts.
Yeah.
Okay, and you compare yourself with other brands depending on your strengths, with your truths. Now, nobody tells the full truth because the full truth is the negative part and the positive part. Then you make a choice.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody says that yeah, tum Coke, Pepsi, or Thumbs Up piyoge, so you'll get over a period of time you'll get diabetes. Nobody will tell you that it has so much what you call chemical structure in it that it can actually melt a tooth if you put it in a glass of cola overnight. तुम दांत निकाल के रख दो ग्लास में, next morning आधा हो वो खा जाएगा. So that means that it's responsible for a lot of cavities in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's responsible for very high levels of sugar. And it gives you zero carb. I mean, it gives you, it's a only carb drink. It gives you zero vitamins or protein. It has no health benefit whatsoever. Okay, they don't tell you.
Yeah.
They should. This drink is purely artificially flavored. It is bad for your digestion. It's bad for your blood sugar, and it is bad if you drink too much of it every day.
Right.
Shouldn't they put it like in on cigarettes you have statutory warning?
Right.
Pepsi, Coke, Pepsi पे कभी देखा आपने statutory warning?
No.
Cigarette पे तो देखा है.
Yeah.
McDonald's पे देखा है आपने statutory warning?
No.
नहीं.
Yeah.
And it's been proven that if you eat McDonald's only for 1 month, you become obese.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, so advertising is thriving on the fact that it hides the bad parts, accelerates the good parts, and makes you feel that this is desirable.
Well, thank you so much.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.